Bozo.
No.
B-O-Z-O.
Sorry?
You've never heard of Bozo the Clown?
No.
How could you not know who Bozo the Clown is?
I don't know. I just don't.
How could you call yourself a clown and not know who Bozo is?
Hey, man. What are you hassling me for? This is just a gig. It's not my life. I don't know who Bozo is. What is he, a clown?
What, is he a clown? Are you kidding me?
Well, what is he?
Yes, he's a clown.
All right, so what's the big deal? There's millions of clowns.
All right, just forget it.
Forget me? You should forget it. You're living in the past, man. You're hung up on some clown from the 60s, man.
Very good, very good. All right, go fold your little balloon animals. Eric, ha! What kind of name is that for a clown, huh?
Some of you may recognize that exchange that happened between Jason Alexander as George Costanza and Jon Favreau as Eric the Clown on Seinfeld. We opened with this since we will talk about my childhood clown collection. Scary. Cabbage Patch Kids, Garbage Pail Kids, and all the cool stuff that happened in October of 1983 on this episode of Latch-Key Dads.
With Greg and Tim. Hey Tim, what's happening in October of 1983?
Well, Greg, in October of 1983, a phenomenon occurred.
A phenomenon?
Yes, it was a big deal because in October of 83, the Cabbage Patch Kids hit the American public in a way that would affect Christmas forever for dads and moms across the country.
It ruined many a kid's Christmases because they were so disappointed, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. I think we've all probably heard the stories of stores saying they had some, and then just mobs of people and riots would break out, and people would get trampled and broken bones and people knocked unconscious, all in the effort to get a $30 little doll for Christmas.
I think from at least in our lifetime, that was the first run on a toy. I mean, certainly later we saw the Tickle Me Elmo craze, and then I think the Furbies caused a little bit of a thing, but this was definitely the first one that I can recall.
Yeah, and I think it did sort of set that precedent. I think there probably were toys previously that were, really sought after, but this was the one that just put people in a frenzy and really, I think it even, it got played up in pop culture and in television shows and everything. I remember there was a show I watched recently called Halt and Catch Fire. That was this show about, the early days of computer programming and developing computers. And even in that, there's a scene where one of the programmers, he's obsessed with getting one of these dolls for his kid and just the lengths that he goes through. And in the end, he actually gets suckered. Somebody sells him a box that's supposed to have the doll in it, and then he opens it and finds the guy just took him for $200 and there's no doll in it. So. Anyway, hopefully that didn't happen to any of our listeners, that they got taken for a couple $100 and didn't get their Cabbage Patch.
and I think with that was this news sensationalism of things, because on the news it was riot at this mall, and X person, this person got trampled and knocked down and hurt, and it was news, not just family news, but like national news.
Yeah, and I think it was, in general, it was pretty accurate. Today with social media, stuff gets blown out of proportion, and, we don't know what's true and what's false anymore. But I think back then, a lot of those reports were actually pretty true of, what people were doing. And I don't know, growing up with just a brother, you and your brother probably weren't really into the Cabbage Patch dolls, but
I didn't have one.
My younger sister, she wanted one. She was, I guess she would have been 4 in 83. So we ended up, my sister and I, we got them in 84, a year later.
Oh, okay.
And mine was called Nicholas Frederick. And I don't remember playing with it a whole lot, but I still have it. I'm on the episode page on our website, latchkeydads.com. There will be photos of my Cabbage Patch doll on there. You can all check that out.
Do you still have it?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
And what about, didn't they come with a birth certificate?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. And they all were, signed on the butt by the guy who originally created them, Xavier Roberts.
Okay.
And, going back to the origination of the product itself, that guy, Xavier Roberts, he would hand make each one of these dolls before Coleco bought them and started mass producing them.
Wow.
So, he would hand sign each one of them back then.
Okay.
And then obviously when they were mass produced, they would just stamp them. But I think after the first year or so, they started putting a date inside of his signature so people would know that it was an 85 model. So like, you're buying a car, what model year is this Cabbage Patch? So along with that, when I was a kid, me and my brother and his sister, we had collections and things like that, and clowns were one of the things that my family had sort of dubbed the thing that I was going to be collecting. And so I have a second Cabbage Patch that came in a clown costume, and he has an 86 on his butt. So
that explains so much, Tim. It explains so much.
Yeah, I always wear a smile, but inside I'm just a sad clown.
We'll have to talk a little more about this Cabbage Patch clown. Do you still have that one?
I also have that one. Yeah. He's kept in a closet,
in a bag, in a box.
Yeah. So I will put up a photo of the clown one as well. So.
And the clown's name?
Conrad was the clown's name. Yeah.
Not a very clowny name.
No, and he was not funny. But yeah, I mean, that whole just world that they created, it was pretty incredible. I mean, I looked up the numbers, and I think over the course of like 10 years, while they were at their height, I think it was over $2 billion that were, generated revenue from the Cabbage Patch line. And they still make them today.
Do they? I was going to ask you if you knew.
It's not obviously as big of a craze as it was back in '83, but pretty amazing, really. I think it was in '96 they were like the official mascot of the Olympics.
Oh wow!
And I think it was in '04 they created the first presidential versions of Cabbage Patch dolls. So there was an Obama and a George W. Bush Cabbage Patch doll. Or Cabbage Patch Kid. I keep calling them dolls. They were
Cabbage Patch Kids. Yeah.
I think probably the thing that made them unusual was that up until that point, every mass-produced toy, you were getting the same toy.
Right.
And this was the first one where they were individualized, with that whole birth certificate, and you were adopting it. The name was individual, the hair color was different, the skin color, everything was unique to that doll. And they created something that I guess the American public was really looking for, and pretty cool.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you're looking for a doll, why would you want the same one your friend across the street has? Let's get one with red hair and pigtails, whatever. You know. Yeah.
And I think my daughter, when she was younger, the American doll, I think they probably modeled some of that off of the same thing, where it was very individualized, and you could make it look like your kid, or whatever you wanted. And I think that company has done pretty well too. So
that was obviously I just had boys, so they didn't ask for American dolls, but I do remember hearing very expensive.
Yeah, they're making their money.
Well, with every good product there has to be the American bandwagon. Let's make some money off of this, and Tops just killed it with the Garbage Pail Kids, right? Do you remember those cards?
Oh yeah. We love collecting them. We had I think at the time my brother was really into the line that sort of preceded it, which was the wacky packages.
Oh, okay.
Which were actually produced. The guy who created the wacky packages was an artist by the name of Art Spiegelman. And so on the heels of wacky packages being pretty popular, he was going to kind of spin it off as like a similar line, and or part of the same line, I should say. And then Topps was like, no, we're going to separate this out, and it's going to be its own separate thing. And in the end, it turned into a bigger phenomenon, I think, than the wacky packages. Okay. So
I think I had a few wacky packages, like, or my brother did, and I just kind of inherited them. I kind of remember that.
Yeah, my brother was way more into wacky packages than he was the Garbage Pail Kids, and it could have just been an age thing. That him being 3 years older, he could care less about the the Garbage Pail Kids. But me and my friends, we were so into them.
So if you're not familiar with a Garbage Pail Kid, it's a trading card, but it was a sticker. And it looked like the face was round with the eyes, so it looked like I keep mixing them up, a Cabbage Patch Kid, but they were, I don't know, how would you say that, Tim?
Well, I think, it was all, some sort of an abnormality or, some sort of terrible pain or death or something that made it funny, and then they'd pair that with the name that they would give the card. So, as an example, the card I think that's the most associated with him is Atom Bomb, whereas, the top of his head is blowing off like he's exploding. And they always made two versions of every card. So with Atom Bomb, there was Blasted Billy, and, so there was always an A and a B card, for everyone. Nice. I think mine was Tongue-Tied Timmy, if I'm not mistaken. And I think yours might have been Gross Greg.
I think you're right, yes.
And somewhere in a box, my stack of cards is waiting for me to find them. I haven't yet tracked them down. So at some point, I'll put some photos up, but it may not be in time for this episode.
I didn't. I wasn't allowed to start collecting them when they first came out.
Oh.
Yeah, my parents said, no, that's too vulgar. But I just wore them down. I'm like, every kid has them. It's not fair. And so by the time the second edition came out, I was allowed to start getting them. And I think, about 5 years ago, I just gave them away.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't keep them. I had them in a box, and then I should have kept them. But yeah, I had a lot of the entire second series, because that's when it was a big deal for us anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say your parents wouldn't allow you to get them, because I saw that in Mexico they were banned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that because of that sort of degrading, vulgar violence, everything associated with kids, that they were like, they used the Garbage Pail line as a cited example of the kind of material that they do not want coming into the country, which I thought was pretty wild.
That is, and because not just myself but some other kids weren't allowed to have them, there was this black market that developed in grade school for Garbage Pail Kids, and I would trade my lunch for cards, and always asking my mom for a second pudding cup or whatever. So it's like I was getting them
one way or
another. So,
yeah, that's funny.
Were you were good to go? Because
I feel like at the time we were also collecting, I think it was football stickers, and we had like a book that we'd put the football players in. And I think we just would kind of be like, oh, we're going to get like 3 packs of these, but then, oh, can I get one of these other cards? And we'd try to like play it off like it wasn't, it's just like, Cabbage Patch Kids or something, like. I don't remember my parents giving us a hard time about getting them. But
nice.
I think it's crazy, though, how, some of this stuff from our youth, you go on eBay and, the value of it. And so a pack that was probably 25 cents or 50 cents, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
An unopened pack is going for $25, $30 or something like that. And then certain cards, I think you had said the values were insane, right?
Yeah, I decided to do a quick eBay check. And the as you mentioned, Atom Bomb, who's like 1A, the first one, $20,000. And then his counterpart, again, 20,000. So it's like card 1A, 1B, and then 2A and 2B seem to be the most desirable, anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000. I did find somebody who had all 4 of those cards, $120,000.
It's unbelievable. It really is. Makes me want to find that box that mine are in
digging.
And see if I can find them. Or maybe buy a couple of those $23 packs on eBay that are unopened in the hopes that they're in there maybe. But yeah, it's I don't know. I know. I still remember, having them and really just thinking they were the the funniest thing when I was a kid.
So funny,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Although, in looking through some of these listings on eBay and stuff, it's pretty wild. Like I thought I knew most of the cars, but there's a lot of them that I did not recall at all, and just really like out there, pretty strange.
Yeah, it does seem like they also tried to re-establish them several times over the past couple decades. Like, here's the the reissue platinum, and here's a new series making fun of a former president. Like they tried different ways to maybe get back into popularity, but I don't really think it really took off.
Yeah, and I know they did it on anniversary years, like the 20 year and 30 year, and I do remember this was probably like maybe 5 or 6 years ago or something. Like at the local dollar store. Yeah. They had them, they had wacky packages and they had the garbage pail. Oh, okay. And at the time I was like, I didn't think anything of it to actually buy any. But there was a moment where I thought, oh, this would be great. And then I'm like, yeah, but why?
You're 8 again.
Now, I'm kind of wishing I had, but I...
So. They were fun. Yeah. They were a cool toy. And I think this, and then like I mentioned with the Furby and the things, led way to a Christmas classic movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jingle All the Way. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. Yeah. It's not really a great movie, but it's exactly the concept here, that there's this hot new toy that the dad has to get for his kid, and the chaos that ensues. Tim, I'd like to circle back to something you had mentioned earlier, and that was the fact that you, A, had a clown Cabbage Patch Kid, and B, you collected clowns as a child? What's that about?
Yeah, so, growing up, my brother, he collected Garfield stuff, so he had all these...
Garfield, awesome.
Yeah, stuffed Garfields and... anything you could imagine that had Garfield's face, stuck on it. And when I was, a couple years later, when I was, in the picture, it was a mix of Snoopy and also clowns that were the things that my family members and extended family would get me as gifts and stuff. So, over, the better part of my, pre-teen years, I had amassed a pretty healthy collection of clowns that would just, there was this shelf in my room that was just all these clowns.
How horrifying. But what did you say you liked a clown when you were a kid, or they just they said this one will like clowns?
Sounds probably pretty accurate. I don't know. I don't remember any, moment where I, made a proclamation, that from this day forth, I shall collect clowns. But yeah, so it just sort of kept happening. More clowns came into the mix.
It snowballed.
Yeah. So I know I showed you this photo, and I'll put it up, on the web page for our listeners to see. But there was a Christmas where I got this probably 24-inch tall clown that was battery operated, and he would laugh. Which was amazing. And so he went on the shelf with all the other clowns with batteries in them.
In your bedroom?
In my bedroom, yeah. And apparently, as batteries would, eventually they would fail. And so one night while I'm sleeping, Mr. Laffy Clown starts maniacally laughing in sort of a low and after I took my bed sheets off and put them in laundry, put on some fresh underwear, I took the batteries out of the clown, and it was like a yellow sleeve that was on his arm. Mm-hmm. So I shoved the batteries in there, just thinking like, I don't know, as a kid, I don't know, I just, where should I put them? So I put them there, then proceeded to forget about it. And then about a month or so later, they began to leak. So it looked like his arm was bleeding. So now the weird clown that laughs while I sleep has now got a bloody arm. So not scary at all. And, to quote Bart Simpson, can't sleep, clown will eat me.
That is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying.
But, I don't know. As a kid, I didn't really think it was that weird.
Well, clowns were kind of a big decorative motif in the 70s and 80s. I remember my dentist as a little kid, he had clowns decorating his entire office, which was horrible in and of itself. But, to have one, like a collection in your bedroom is pretty intense.
Yeah. And there was a year for Halloween that I was dressed up as a clown. I remember I think it was black and yellow polka dots on one side and like teal on the other side.
Okay.
Had a matching pair of teal Converse All Stars to go along with it. Yeah.
Very cool.
I was a pretty rad looking clown.
Man, that's rough. That's rough. I didn't, I didn't have any sort of theme growing up like that, but that's interesting. Did your sister have a theme?
I know she collected like Barbies and she collected like My Little Pony and Care Bears and different things, but I don't remember her having, a specific, anything dubbed.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just the men of the family that were given a specific, very specific thing that you shall collect.
Well, I did kind of, look up a little bit about clowns. I remember you had mentioned to me about your love for clowns, and the correct term for fear of clowns is coulrophobia. Whew, that's a mouthful. So, do you think you suffer from that? Did you have any long-lasting therapy sessions?
I think I did steer clear of any movies where they tried to make clowns be really scary. I think just because I was so close to them in my room, I didn't need to put any more scary clown associations, in my brain.
Did you see the Stephen King It TV miniseries?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Oh,
and I have not seen the more recent, very from the previews I've seen, extremely scary, new version of it.
They did a great job in splitting it up into the storytelling. As the one movie was his children, and the next was adults instead of the flashbacks. That the way the King wrote the book. But the first one was probably the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. Like
the remake or the original
remake,
one?
The remake,
Okay. Yeah.
And I had super high expectations for the second one, but it was just kind of like a rehash of the first. They didn't really, but the first one was really, really good.
Yeah. Well, and I do feel like that stirred up the whole phenomenon quite a bit, where you'd see, in countries around the world and stuff, where someone would be in a park and they'd turn around and there'd be some clown standing there with a balloon, and you're like, yeah, that's super frightening.
Yeah.
How can I get out of this park as fast as possible?
And even around here, when the second It movie came out, people were putting balloons, tying them to
the
sewer
drains. Yeah.
Just to freak people out.
Yeah. I think it works. I don't think there's many people that don't see that are like, yeah, I'm going nowhere near that. Yeah. And, I think for, as much as clowns, like probably the generation even before our parents, like grandparents, there was a lot of happy association with clowns and stuff like that. And it really wasn't that evil element added to it until probably we were, younger kids, and, there'd be the, killer clowns from outer space and, various things like that to really play up the scary side of clowns.
Yeah, I don't even think, kids like clowns anymore. I really feel that they're kind of out of... I mean, people know clowns, of course, but as far as culture goes, I don't remember any clown coming to any of my kids' birthday parties, things like that. So. Yeah,
and I feel like even in TV, when they do have it as like an element of a sitcom or something like that, it's always sort of... they're jabbing, they're poking at the clown aspect. They're not promoting it at all.
The poor clown association's getting no respect.
Yeah.
And with Ringling Brothers, the circus closing, I guess it's a tough time to be a clown.
Yeah. My grandmother, though, she was really into clowns, and she was part of like a troupe. It was a bunch of older women who would go around and they'd entertain and try to cheer up kids and stuff like that. And I think they did it when it was still like kids still had a response that was positive, but I'm sure like I don't think that's gonna fly today. I just think there's too many negative associations with it that it probably would be a tough sell.
I did see there was a study done for children in the hospital, and 10 out of 1,000 children were afraid of the clowns that were brought in to cheer them up.
Yeah.
So it's certainly a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, even, like McDonald's, when we were kids, like every commercial had Ronald McDonald in it. And
That's
now
a good point.
I think it's just the Ronald McDonald house is like the only place where there's still that association with, I think, that character.
I agree.
But they're not using, well, I guess the whole gang, the Hamburglar and everybody, they've all got their severance checks, and they're not in the commercials anymore.
I haven't seen the Hamburglar in a couple of decades, so
the Fry Guys,
Grimace.
Yeah. I think he tried to get a deal with Sesame Street, and it fell through.
The Muppets wouldn't have him.
Yeah, I think he's a stand-in stunt double for Barney.
Did you ever, just finishing up on this, did you ever tell your parents, let's put the clowns away? Or did you just suffer till you went off to college?
I think, yeah. I mean, there was, like, even at Christmas, like, we would all have little Christmas trees in our room. Like, we'd have a big Christmas tree as a family, but then in our rooms we'd have little trees. And I always had, it was pretty much all decorations of clowns that were on that. And it was, I want to say, yeah, when I moved out, after college, that I kind of took the box of clown decorations and put a lot of tape on it and just kind of said that's over. That's not happening anymore.
The phase is done with my life.
Yeah. Sorry, Mom.
Hey Tim, so what were some of the current events going on around the world in October of 1983?
On October 4th, Richard Noble, driving his, I'll say car, I assume it was a car, called Thrust 2, reached a new land speed record of 650.88 miles per hour at Black Rock Desert in Nevada.
I tried telling the cop that pulled me over for going 40 in a 25 that, and he just wasn't listening. He just wasn't having it. On October 11th, the last hand-cranked telephone in the United States went out of service as 440 telephone customers in Bryant Pond, Maine, finally made the switch to direct dial.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I know 83 is a bunch of years ago, but still, that seems like
hand crank.
Yeah, it seems like too late. Like that should happen a lot sooner than it did.
Do you remember when we had the rotary phones? Right, that's like a big thing. Everybody's rotary phone. You'd have to dial like 8, and you'd have to wait till it went right. And then when the, I guess, digital came, and we still had a rotary phone. So even though it was a rotary service, so even though it was a digital buttons, you would press the button and you would hear it go. But that was in the mid 80s, and we're bumping up the technology, and there's still some places using hand cranks.
Yeah. It's like I just said. It just seems strange that it took that long, for the last of them to be out of service. Pretty wild. Yeah. So on October 19th, the U.S. Senate declared that there would be a national holiday each year in honor of Martin Luther King Jr.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On October of 25th, processing system Microsoft Word is first released. Though the first version designed for the Windows operating system would not be released until 1989.
Yeah. I kind of wish it never was released. No, I mean, I know it's a great program and a lot of people rely on it, but as a graphic designer, the number of times that I'm asked to take something that I've designed within the Adobe suite and then redesign it into Word or PowerPoint,
cringe.
Yeah. And then the last day of the month, October 31st, Ron Grant completed a 217-day 8,316-mile run around Australia.
I've got an issue with this, because of course I would, but it's not really a run if he's stopping and sleeping. Right? Isn't that just like an extended, journey?
217 runs.
Thank you. All right. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I can say I have run a marathon. I've run 26.2 miles.
Wow.
And the idea of, I mean, I didn't do the math here, but that's a lot of miles a day that he's running to get to 8,316. I can't imagine, just doing that for one day, 16 years ago or whatever it was. I don't ever want to do that again. So here's to Ron Grant and your ridiculous amount of running.
Yes. I'm not saying it's not impressive.
Yeah.
It's just not a run.
Yeah. All right. So in addition, obviously, to current events, we always like to talk about the movies that came out during the months, that we're highlighting. So in October of '83, what were some of the movies that came out, Greg?
There wasn't a lot of good ones, to be quite honest. Just a few here that we'll mention. The Dead Zone, book by Stephen King, with Christopher Walken. Everybody loves Christopher Walken and his dance moves. But I don't think he danced in this one.
Yeah, maybe. He might have, behind the scenes and we didn't get to see it, but yeah. Maybe more cowbell. Maybe that's what he was asking for.
Another movie, Rumblefish, which was written by S.E. Hinton, who also wrote The Outsiders. Great movie and book.
Yeah, yeah. And I always think it's interesting, when you see some of these older movies, sometimes the main characters, the actors that portrayed them, their careers never really went anywhere, but a lot of the secondary actors are the ones who had, pretty phenomenal careers. And, I think this is, I'm thinking of the movie you just referenced, The Outsiders.
Oh, The Outsiders,
That
sure.
The main character didn't really have a tremendous career, but all the secondary actors did.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a massive list of who's in 80s and 90s movies there. But there were a number here in Rumblefish as well. Dennis Hopper, Nicolas Cage, even Lawrence Fishburne, as supporting characters to Matt Dillon, Mickey Rourke, and Diane Lane. So those are some pretty big names.
Yeah, and really, when you think about it, Matt Dillon had an okay career, but most of the others, secondary characters had much, more substantial careers.
Yeah.
So another movie that came out was All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise and Leah Thompson.
Nice. I didn't see it. You?
No, I don't even recall the name, honestly. Yeah.
He was a football player, I believe, high school football player. So.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get one of our interns to watch it, and they can tell us about it.
Give us a review. And then finally, Never Say Never Again, James Bond. We mentioned him a couple shows ago. This was the probably the best James Bond, Sean Connery. This surprised me. Kim Basinger was in that, and gotta love Rowan Atkinson, who was a bit part, but it's still cool to think that Mr. Bean exists in the James Bond universe.
Yeah. And he plays like a straight man, like his, the way that he talks and everything. It's still, his voice. Rowan Atkinson has a very, obviously as Mr. Bean, he doesn't say a whole lot.
Right.
But, to see him in a straight role, it's kind of fun. And
that is cool.
He's had a few other roles like that where he's played more of a straight character,
yeah.
Not being Mr. Bean. One of them that comes to mind is Love Actually. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No, I did not.
He plays. It's sort of like he's being funny, but in a very sort of subtle way, where he's packaging up a gift at a department store, and he's doing all this elaborate, like dumping flowers in it and all this stuff. And the whole time, the guy who's trying to get the gift is just like, "All right, hurry up! I got to get out of here!" And he's just taking forever. And it's pretty funny.
He is a great physical, comedic actor. You just laugh at him because he looks so, he does such silly things.
Yeah, yeah. I think he has a new series out on Netflix right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'd tell you what it is, but I'll figure it out and tell you in the report card.
Nice. So, Tim, there was October of 1983 was a great time for music. We've got lots of different types of music, some great things going on. We'll start with albums. You want to talk about some of the albums that came out?
Sure. Cyndi Lauper put out her She's So Unusual. Bob Dylan put out his Infidels. Genesis came out.
That's such a good band.
Yeah. Genesis was definitely in heavy rotation in my dad's Mercury Capri back in the 80s.
Yeah. Billy Idol released his Rebel Yell album. He was just the biggest thing there for a couple years in the 80s. And it was great to see him come back as the wedding singer.
Yeah, definitely.
That was nice. The Smiths released The Charming Man. This was probably Culture Club's biggest album, Color by Numbers, right?
Yeah. And it's funny, I did a little, just I was curious to see, that particular album. Obviously, there was a bunch of songs that people know, but I know they've continued to perform over the years. But how many albums have they put out and things like that? And there's a compilation. Most compilations maybe will have like 15 or 20 songs on it. One of their compilations has 74 songs on it. It's like, how?
That's more of a discography than a compilation.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then coming back to our guy Lionel Richie, Can't Slow Down was put out then. John Mellencamp, big album, some really big songs on there. Authority Song, Pink Houses,
yeah. And before he got the moniker Cougar.
True, yeah. Not as many names or nicknames as Prince, but yeah, he jumped around a little bit. And then lastly, the Oak Ridge Boys album Deliver.
All right.
Do you remember the Oak Ridge Boys at all?
I know only by name. I couldn't tell you one song that they sing. Good stuff?
I mean, I remember hearing them. I do remember they had a song called Elvira.
Oh, yeah. I know that song.
It's kind of funny to listen to it now, but I know as a kid, I remember hearing that song a lot. Yeah.
What was that about? The TV host Elvira, or was it just coincidental?
I don't know. Maybe we'll get that intern to research that for us too.
Get on that. The singles released, many of them coming off those albums we just mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Smiths with the self-titled "The Charming Man" single. Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. We had talked about that once before.
Yeah,
with Say.
And then off of Billy Idol's Rebel Yell, the track came off of there. Genesis, That's All.
I love that song.
Yeah,
I could listen to that song like 1,000 times. It doesn't get old for me. I don't know. Little Pointer Sisters action. I Need You. And wrapping it up, John Mellencamp released a single for Pink Houses.
Right. Yeah. Good songs right there. And then the top 10, this would have been on October 8th of 1983.
But one of these things just doesn't belong here, and now it's time to play.
So the number 10 song, a little surprising here, Frank Stallone, Far From Over.
I mean, just listening to it now, it's just, it's great.
Way to go, Frank.
Way to use the last name to get there. The Fix was number 9 with One Thing Leads to Another.
This one, I feel like in high school, someone brought the song up and it was, we all would safety dance around. I don't know why, but yeah, it's Men Without Hats, the safety dance, number 8.
Number 8. Billy Joel with Tell Her About It. Very classic Billy Joel song, really good.
Yeah. Number 6, Islands in the Stream, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton.
I remember, we just had talked about Vacation, and I talked about that Yellow Dots, and I can still remember driving in the car with my parents, and they had Dolly Parton. I don't know if it was this song was on that Dolly Parton album, and I could probably, know every note to that song. It's a great song, too.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a good song. Stray Cats with She's Sexy and 17. I don't know if that would fly in today's environment.
Probably not. And then number 4, Spandau Ballet with True. Greg, I don't know if you remember Modern Family. They had a cameo with Ed Norton. In that role, he played a fictitious version of the bass player from Spandau Ballet. And the whole premise was that Phil, one of the main characters, was a fan of Spandau Ballet, and they called them the Fandaus.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Anyway, it was funny.
But that is,
yeah,
it's great. A great song from The Police, King of Pain.
Great song. Yeah. Number 2, Air Supply, Making Love Out of Nothing at All.
There you go. And number 1 on the charts in October of 1983 is a great song, Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler.
There you go. So, Greg, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's obviously people make parodies of, songs and stuff like that. There's a video out there of a person that took all the strange things happening in that video.
That is a weird video.
And wrote literal lyrics in the same melody as the song, and it's worth a watch. So we'll put the link up, on the website for it. But it
really is quite funny.
Yeah. So just as a little sample, some of the lyrics. And the room, random use of candles, empty bottles and cloth, and can you see me through this fan?
Very good. Nicely done.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's funny. It's a really funny video. I think I watched it like 6 times.
Yeah. So you'll have to check that out.
So, as we've kind of been doing now, we're actually there was some great TV in 1980s as well. We've done a lot of music and movies, but some great television was happening at this time. And I was going through this website I found, and they actually showed you the TV guide for the time period, and
nice.
You just click on the day. And before we talk about the regular Monday, the regular shows, I found some great specials. Just point this out. See if there was a show that the Disney Channel, which existed in '83, I didn't know that, aired a show called Hansel and Gretel, which was, some of you may heard of this guy's name, Tim Burton, his directorial debut of a film short that combined live action and stop motion for like this creepy adventure into the woods.
Huh. Yeah.
So all the way back in '83, Tim Burton made his debut.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I had no idea. I'd never heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you seen the stop action?
I have not, but we should probably Google that or something.
Track it down and put a link out to it.
I did know that Tim Burton was a employee of Disney because he actually was one of the grunt line artists for Fox and the Hound.
Huh. Really cool. Yeah. Another one was Garfield on the Town.
Your brother was excited about that?
Definitely. That was a whole family adventure for us to get out some Gino's pizza rolls and make sure we were in front of the TV when it aired.
Well, that's true because these shows way before recording TV shows and streaming services, it was on. You better get your butt in front of the TV, and everybody sat and watched. These specials like Garfield on the Town. There was like 7 or 8 of those, right? Garfield does something or other. Garfield goes to the vet. I don't know. He doesn't come back the same. I don't know. And along those lines, do you remember Sunday Night, The Wonderful World of Disney? It was Sunday, right?
I think so. It sounds right. Yeah.
And I think it might have been, I don't know, ABC or whatever, but they would always like show their shorts, and Walt would be there and like in between them. And one of the specials, we were in October, so was a Disney Halloween. So it was just, hosted by the Magic Mirror and stuff, and they did like different scenes, and all the Disney characters got little, promos and said, "Come spend your money."
That's right. Cool.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there was High School USA. I don't remember.
Do you know any? I didn't either.
Yeah.
It was like, do you remember in the early 80s they did a lot of TV show crossovers? Like they had like Olympics, like kind of like the Stars.
The Circus of the Stars.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I think so. This was for all of the, I guess, the teenage people, and they did like a little movie. So it was Michael J. Fox from Family Ties and all of these people. And it was like a who's who. Todd Bridges from Different Strokes and all the different people, and it looks fantastic. I think it was so good that we could do a whole episode on High School USA. I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, but looked promising.
Cool. Yeah. We'll have to check it out. And then besides the specials, we obviously had the regular programming that was on Monday through Friday, and obviously the Saturday and Sunday as well. So Mondays, Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
Watched it.
Yeah.
My mom liked that show, so I watched it with her.
Yeah. And After MASH.
Okay. I don't know that one. Tuesdays, one of the best shows to come from the 80s, The A-Team.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the intro, right?
Dun, 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 dun,
And then they had the
dun,
over voice, and he's like, "This special forces operation." Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah, that's great. Now, have you seen any of the movies or anything that they've made since?
No, you.
I actually recently watched the A-Team movie again. I had seen it when it came out.
Oh.
It was on one of the streaming services, and I watched it again. And I mean, it's got a nice throwback element to the original show and stuff. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Liam Neeson plays Hannibal.
Oh, that might be worth it if Liam Neeson's in it.
Yeah. And then your show, the one that you thought Timothy Dalton was in, Remington Steele.
Wait, he wasn't? On Wednesday, we had a great couple of shows, Facts of Life, They're All About You, and Family Ties.
Nice. And then Thursdays was a healthy... you had a lot of options on the menu on Thursday night. There was Magnum P.I., my dad was a star of that show. If anyone was, no, I'm just kidding. My dad did have a spectacular mustache. Yeah. Simon and Simon, Give Me a Break, Mama's Family, Cheers, and Hill Street Blues.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of decisions to make on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Fridays, though, we had Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, love Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Dallas was above my head, but big show. And Falcon Crest. Again,
also for the older crowd, I think.
Yeah. And then this show I just pointed out just because it's kind of funny is Manimal. And Manimal was a short-lived, I think 8-episode run of this show about this character, Jonathan Chase, who's a shape-shifting man who can turn into animals and, of course, uses his powers to aid the police.
Of course.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. And I think the police ended up putting out a better album that year because of the help of... No, not those police. I got it, yeah. And then Saturday nights, TJ Hooker, The Love Boat, Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island,
yeah.
Nice.
Although Fantasy Island, when it first came on, I don't know why, it used to scare me.
Really?
Yeah, something about the the weird stuff that would happen.
Yeah.
As soon as the show would start and the opening credits, I remember hiding underneath the coffee table or something. I wanted to watch it but didn't, and I felt safe if I was under something. Anyway,
how long did you run around? When you were that young age, going deplane, deplane.
All the time.
All the time, right?
Also, Different Strokes and Silver Spoons were on Saturday night.
Nice. And wrapping up the week, Sunday was Hardcastle and McCormick, Alice, One Day at a Time, The Jeffersons, and we saved the best for last, A Little Knight Rider.
There you go.
Starred David Hasselhoff, who would go on to 90s fame in...
Baywatch,
thank you. I almost forgot the name of the show. Good old David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, it was a great show.
It was.
Hey, Greg. I think it's time for us to do that thing we do at the end of every episode, our report card.
All right, let's get into it. Thrust 2 was in fact a car, albeit jet-propelled, and held the world land speed record from October 4th, 1983, all the way until September 25th, 1997. The Thrust 2 was powered by a single Rolls-Royce Avon jet engine.
Pretty cool. Very cool.
Very.
We did mention the run by Ron Grant in Australia, and since I said I didn't want to do the math just then, I did do the math, and it was 38.32 miles per day he would have had to average to complete his 8,316 miles in 217 days. That's like a marathon and a half every day. That's intense.
Yeah. Makes me look lame for not wanting to get up and get the soda from the fridge. Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, is in a show called Man vs. Bee on Netflix.
Cool. We talked about the opening monologue from the A-Team, and so for anyone who doesn't remember, it went a little something like this. In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
Just gave me shivers, Tim. I love that show. You talked about the Oak Ridge Boys released an album, and you had mentioned the song Elvira. And I had wondered, is that about that Halloween TV host? But the story of the title was that the songwriter, Dallas Frazier, was driving with Ray Baker in Nashville when Ray almost ran a red light at an intersection of Gallatin Road and Elvira Street. So while they were sitting there, Dallas looked up and noticed the street sign, and just immediately on the spot came up with the chorus that would eventually be the song Elvira.
Elvira.
It was so funny after we recorded that. I heard that song on the radio.
Really?
Like later that day, I was like, oh my gosh.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Facebook was listening, I guess. One other small correction. When we talk about the Garbage Pail Kids, I mentioned that your card was Gross Greg, which, although there was a Gross Greg later on, the first issue where Tongue-Tied Tim happened to be out, your card was Greaser Greg.
Nice.
Well, so if you guys noticed any egregious errors that we missed or just want to say hi, you can always reach out to us at dads@latchkeydads.com or go to our website for additional photos and extended content at latchkeydads.com.
I'm going to give us an A+ again.
I think we're doing pretty well. Yeah.
Go Wings. Tim, did you know that listeners should like, review, and subscribe to the Latch-Key Dads podcast?
No. But now I know.
No,
Now he's at the battle.